unanticipated domestic and external shocks. These shocks have resulted into underperformance of key economic variables. Slower than anticipated. This is point one. Point two is slower than anticipated revenue growth. Revenue collection has not increased as fast as projected in the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. The lower than targeted revenue growth is mainly due to time lag it has taken for businesses that were severely affected by the effects of COVID-19 to recover, including the accumulated commercial banks' debts to these entities. On that account, government renewed the tax relief to these entities to allow them time to recover. This tax relief was intended to give the economy time to recover from the prolonged effects of COVID-19 pandemic and other shocks like Russia-Ukraine war, the Middle East conflicts, the geopolitical tensions in the EAC region, among others, as summarized in Table 3, which I invite members to look at. Table 3 analyzes revenue growth to GDP, revenue, tax revenue, and non-tax revenue, and it analyzes the trends from 2020 up to 2024-2025 financial year. Mr. Chair, this slow revenue performance has had spillover effects on the performance of other macroeconomic indicators. Nonetheless, government is moving forward with full implementation of the domestic revenue mobilization strategy, and significant investment has been made in URA to improve tax administration. In addition to improving the efficiency of tax exemptions, to eliminate those that do not support industrialization. Also, the ministry has developed a draft tax policy which is before cabinet for consideration. The policy will guide on widening of tax base, enhance predictability and certainty to the tax system. As a result of these measures, revenue is projected to increase by at least 0.5 percentage points of GDP in line with the target set out in the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. The next issue related, you requested a justification for deviation from the objectives of the Charter as per Section 6 of the PFMA, Cap 171. The response was on account of political and economic shocks beyond the control of the economy. These include the global value chain disruptions by the Russia-Ukraine conflict, lagged effects of COVID-19, and geopolitical tensions within the region. To mitigate the negative impact of the shocks on vulnerable groups and on the economy, government had to undertake deliberate investment to cushion the vulnerable sections of the economy. Some of these investments include the parish development model, where we have invested 3.4 trillion by end of 24-25 financial year, Emyoga, which has so far accumulated an investment of 553 billion, the Youth Livelihood Fund, 207.95 billion, Small Business Recovery Fund, 100 billion, Agricultural Credit Facility, 495 billion, Youth Venture Capital Fund, 12.5 billion, Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program, 168 billion, Invite Project, 800 billion, Grow Project, 824 billion, Uganda Development Corporation, 1.2 trillion, among others. Issue 3, provide details of the projected nominal public debt and public guaranteed debt figures for financial year 24-25 and projected outturn and financial year 2025-2026 projections. Mr. Chairman, I have provided details in Table 4 below and attached Annex 2 on disbursed and outstanding publicly guaranteed debt. And maybe to note, if I can go to the bottom line, in financial year 23 324. The nominal debt to GDP ratio was at 46.8% as outstanding. This financial year, we project to close at 52.04%, and in financial year 2025-2026, we project to close with an outstanding of 53.34%. Mr. Chair, as noted in Table 4 above, in financial year 2023-24, Mr. Chairman, I don't have to repeat this. No, it's not repetition. Nominal debt as a percentage of GDP was 46.8%, way below the projected outstanding of 47.9% for the end of financial year. Indeed, debt outstanding has consistently been below projection over the years. As a result, our debt is expected to remain sustainable in financial year 25-6 and over the medium term. Issue 4, consistency with the National Budget Framework paper. You requested for clarification on the inconsistency between the approved BFP with domestic financing of Uganda shillings 4.011 trillion and the budget proposal of 7.37 trillion provided, and the implications quantifiable of increased domestic borrowing on private sector credit. The response is domestic financing increased by Uganda shillings 7.37 trillion from 4.011 trillion at National Budget Framework paper as approved by Parliament to Uganda shillings 11.381 trillion at the draft estimates level to cater for key government interventions under the ATMs. The ATMs for emphasis is means agro-industrialization, including oil and gas, and science and technology and innovations, including ICT and creative art. Then enablers and other critical financing needs, such as interest rate payments, statutory obligations, including wage, legislature, and judicial needs, among others. Mr. Chairman, this increased borrowing is largely directed towards supporting the private sector. In particular, government is investing back in ATMs and enablers largely driven by the private sector. In addition, part of this borrowing is directed towards providing direct affordable credit lines to the private sector, which they would otherwise not access through the commercial banks. For example, out of the additional borrowing, government is providing additional 2.1 trillion in financial year 2025-2026 through credit lines under the programs such as UDB, Small Business Recovery Fund, PDM, ACF, Invite Emyoga, and Grow. Support large commercial farmers, among others. Issue number 5 was to demonstrate the consistency of the national budget, of the annual budget, with the NDP4. The response is that the draft annual budget for financial year 2025-2026 is consistent with the National Development Plan 4 on account of the following. 1. The financial year 25-6 budget will be the first fiscal year for implementation of the fourth National Development Plan. All MDA budgets have been aligned with the NDP4 programs and program implementation action plans. As a result, the results and targets of the financial year 25-26 budget are aligned to the plan. 2. The NDP4 is the first plan to implement the 10-fold growth strategy. The allocations in the budget prioritize the crucial areas of growing the economy in line with the NDP4, as namely agro-industrialization, which accounts for 1.72 trillion in the budget. Tourism development, 371 billion. Mineral-based industrial development, 957 billion. Science, technology, and innovations, including ICT and creative art industry, with a proposed allocation of Uganda shillings 749 billion, of which Uganda shillings 311 billion is for ICT and digitalization. Shillings 388 billion is for science, technology, and innovations, and 18 billion is for creative art industry, and manufacturing is Uganda shillings 271.8 billion. 3. The budget also prioritizes the enablers in line with the NDP 4 priority areas, and these include maintaining peace, security, and rule of law, 9.7 trillion, human capital development, including health, education, water, and social protection, 11.3 trillion, full monetization of the economy, 2.3, these are the wealth funds, 2.39 trillion, infrastructure development, including roads, railway, electricity, 7.87 trillion, regional integration, irrigation through barack water to stabilize agriculture, manufacturing with focus on industrial parks, 271.8 billion, eliminating corruption, environmental and natural resources conservation and protection, and vertical and horizontal integration of the economy. 4. The NDP projected MTF for financial year 25-6 is PS, please take note.
Yes.
PS has taken note.
Yes, Honorable Minister. Number D.
The allocations on eliminating corruption, environmental and natural resources conservation, and vertical and horizontal. So the areas which the money does not show, by the time I finish, we should have clarified.
Okay.
Because we have broken down everything, Chair. 4. The NDP projected MTF for financial year 25-26 is Uganda shilling 67.8 trillion. The budget provides a total resource amounting to 71.956 trillion. The variation in the budget is on account of front-loading the NDP 4 programmed budget on domestic areas and investment in key enablers to support immediate interventions such as AFCON 2027, investment in the first oil, and the election roadmap. Please note that there is synergy in implementation of government programs as resources cut across. For example, tourism roads under Ministry of Works and Transport, the PDM which supports agro-industrialization, under private sector development, among several others. The next issue is the NDP4 identified projects with high multiplier effects and direct impact for the realization of the plan's desired results. In this regard, provide a committee with proposed budget allocations in the financial year 2025-2026 for the high impact projects of NDP4. Response: the NDP4 identified 63 projects as detailed under Annex 1 with high multiplier effects. 50 of these projects are proposed to be funded by the public through the budget, while 13 are proposed to be funded through public-private sector partnership. In financial year 2025-2026, government has provided Uganda shillings 18.509 trillion allocation under the development budget to cater for the already high multiplier interventions under the ATMs and enablers in line with the tenfold growth strategy. The projects to be financed are those that are compliant with the public investment management system framework. Therefore, All high multiplier projects to be financed are those that will be ready for implementation in line with the PIMS process. Under Annex 1 attached provides the list of projects with high multiplier effects by program. Another issue is an assessment of NDP4 macroeconomic indicators against draft macroeconomic projections indicate an inconsistency in public debt to GDP as highlighted in the table below. The table is from you. I invite members to refer to it again. And the response is as follows. The budget estimates for financial year 25-26 were prepared based on the more recent macroeconomic assumptions compared to the assumptions used during the preparation of the strategic direction and macroeconomic framework for the fourth National Development Plan. For example, the areas of difference in assumptions are on the level of concessional financing, which has since reduced on account of the recent geopolitical environment, on tariffs, revised global growth projections by IMF, reducing grant financing by bilateral partners like you said. Nonetheless, the current projection for the fiscal deficit is 6.5%, closer to the NDP4 projection of 7.7%. Issue 6 is on guarantees and contingent liabilities. And the issue is provide the committee with the list of all beneficiaries of government guarantees. This should include values of guarantees and implications on the annual budget. Response, Mr. on the budget, due to the low probability of default in the medium term, these guarantees will have no negative implications to the budget. Next issue, provide the committee with a list of all public-private partnership PPPs and their corresponding amounts, values, project costs. Mr. Chair, I have attached Annex 5 on the list of all PPPs and their corresponding values. Issue number 7 on the contingency fund. Justify why 169 billion has been provided for contingency fund under Vote 130 Treasury operations, which is not equivalent to 0.5% of the appropriated annual budget of 34.318 trillion for financial year 2024-2025, instead of 171.1 billion allocated in the financial year for 2025-26. Response, Mr. Chairman, the provision of 169 billion is within the range of the expected 171 billion as required by the law. Issue 8, domestic arrears. According to the Auditor General, domestic arrears increased from 10.5 trillion in financial year 2022-23 to Uganda shillings 13.81 trillion by the end of financial year 2023-24. The committee observed that there has been an improvement by the provision of 1.4 trillion for domestic arrears for financial year 25-26. At this rate, it will take government close 10 years to clear all domestic arrears if no new arrears are accumulated. Now, the request was to provide a comprehensive plan on how to clear domestic arrears and to curb accumulation of arrears in the medium and the long term. Response, Mr. Chair and colleagues, Uganda shillings 13.81 trillion stated by the Auditor General includes an amount of Uganda shillings 8.313 trillion for Bank of Uganda redemptions, which were already provided for in the financial year 2024-2025 budget. This is not in the next year's budget. The balance of Uganda shillings 5.254 trillion arrears is for goods and services, pension and gratuity contributions to international organizations, court awards, as well as rent and utilities. However, we have provided Uganda shillings 1.4 trillion in financial year 2025-6 budget for down payment of all arrear categories, which further reduces the arrears stock to Uganda shillings 3.854 trillion only. At this rate, therefore, we shall be able to clear the remaining stock within 3 financial years and not 10 as indicated. Mr. Chairman, we have further put in place measures to mitigate against further accumulation of arrears as follows. 1. Enforcing sanctions against accounting officers responsible for creation of new domestic arrears. 2. Improvements in the multi-year budgeting to accurately estimate commitments that go beyond 1 year. 3. Strengthening enforcement of the commitment control system. And 4. Reconsidering the structure of counterpart funding for projects. Issue 9 is on public corporations and state enterprises. And you observed that out of 65 public corporations and state enterprises, only 14 were submitted to Parliament under Volume 3 Budget Estimates for State Enterprises and Public Operations. And you want us to provide a clarification why Section 1211F of the Public Finance Management Act is not being fully complied with, and 2, to provide the committee with the missing budget estimates of the public operations and state enterprises for next financial year. Mr. Chair, in line with Section 1211F, my ministry has already written to all the affected state enterprises submit their budgets for onward submission to Parliament. Those that do not comply will be sanctioned in line with the PFM Act 2015. Issue 10, Wealth Creation Funds. Parish Development Model Funds, World Bank Women Entrepreneurs Project, Fund for Exporters, Small Business Recovery Fund, Fund for 8 poorest sub-regions, Cattle Restocking Funds, Funds to support cooperatives, Nagric Funds for high-quality animals, Tractors for Mechanization Funds, Women Funds, SAGE Uganda Development Bank Funds, Uganda Development Corporation Funds, Support to Microfinance Support Center, Agriculture Credit Facility and Specialized Groups, MYOGA. You requested us to provide Parliament with the performance, both financial and physical performance, of the aforementioned Wealth Creation Funds for financial year 23-24 and 25-2026 budget allocations. Performance should indicate approved funds, released funds, actual expenditure, output, and impact in regard to the objectives of respective wealth funds. Mr. Chairman, I wish to respond as follows. 1. Under the parish development model, by the end of financial year 2024-25, 10,589 PDM parish circles will be capitalized with Uganda shillings 3.257 trillion directly on their respective bank/Wendy accounts. As at 30th April 2025, Uganda shillings 2.728 trillion had been disbursed by the circles to the beneficiaries. This represents a national disbursement rate of 91.99%. Currently, the parish development model has reached 2,557,000 beneficiaries. For financial year 2025-2026, additional 1.594 trillion has been provided to reach the subsistence households that are yet to be covered. Under number 2 is Agricultural Credit Facility. Since 2010, government has cumulatively remitted a total of Uganda shillings 325.93 billion to the facility's escrow account at Bank of Uganda. As at March 31st, 2025, a total of Uganda shillings 872.51 billion had been disbursed to 3,962 eligible beneficiaries across the country. Out of these disbursements, government contribution accounts for 441.36 billion, matched with Uganda shillings 431.15 billion by the participating financial institutions. The capitalization of Uganda shillings 308.38 billion, together with the referral or repayments from PFIs of Uganda shillings 315.16 billion, have enabled cumulative lending of up to Uganda shillings 441.36 billion by government contribution. The facility has financed various projects within the agricultural value chain, with grain trading funded most at Uganda shillings 333.9 billion, which accounts for 42%. On farm activities, shillings 262.2 billion. Agro processing of value addition, Uganda shillings 155.9 billion, and shillings 89 billion provided for post-harvest management, accounting for 8% of the total loan disbursement under agricultural credit facility. In financial year 25-26, Uganda shillings 50 billion has been allocated as government contribution to the agricultural credit facility. Number 3 is the Small Business Recovery Fund. The Small Business Recovery Fund serves as a stimulus initiative to provide affordable loans to small businesses and operates as a public-private partnership with commercial banks, credit institutions, and microfinance deposit-taking institutions between government and supervised financial institutions. Please note that the Uganda shillings 100 billion was a one-off capitalization plan, and the government does not provide annual allocation since this was a COVID-19 recovery fund. Number 4 is Uganda Development Bank, UDB. Uganda Development Bank is a government development institution that promotes the country's socio-economic development agenda through sustainable financial interventions. The bank has grown in size with total assets valued at Uganda shillings 1.7 trillion. The net loans and advances stand at Uganda shillings 1.6 trillion. It supports key growth sectors of agro-industrialization, human capital development, infrastructure, manufacturing, and tourism and hospitality. In financial year 2025-2026, shillings 410 billion is provided as additional capitalization to Uganda Development Bank to support interventions in inclusive growth sectors. 5. Emyoga program. In line with our commitment to fostering financial inclusion and empowerment for socio-economic transformation, government set up the Emyoga program. So far, seed capital to 7,108 circles with an amount of Uganda shillings 321 billion has been disbursed, with 24 million members facilitated at affordable credit of 8% per annum. Emyoga savings stand at Uganda shillings 93.1 billion cumulatively. Over 471,918 jobs have been created, with the women-led circle excelling in value-added enterprises such as wine-making, coffee production, and artisan products. In financial year 2025-6, additional 100 billion is provided to increase the productivity of Emyoga enterprises. Microfinance Support Center. Over the NDP3 period, 2,374 client projects. These include circles, groups, and microfinance institutions, SMEs, and cooperative unions were financed with low-cost credit at 8% per annum. A total of 4,950,489 beneficiaries, out of which 2.7 are female and 2.2 are male, have benefited from the program. Cumulatively, government has financed 9,000 client projects to a tune of Uganda shillings 678.9 billion, benefiting 12.2 million beneficiaries. 70% of the funds have been mainly invested in the agricultural sector. As a result, 600,000 jobs, both direct and indirect, were created, and capacity building of SACCOs continues countrywide. Mr. Chairman, a comprehensive review of the performance of all wealth creation funds is being undertaken. I will submit a report to this committee and Parliament once the exercise is concluded. Issue 11 was on the budget priorities for financial year 2025-2026. Provide the committee with the proposed financial year 2025-6 budget allocations for key interventions under the ATM strategy. Mr. Chairman, this is an area where I presented earlier. I beg that we refer to my previous submission, save for the additional allocations which the PSST is going to provide.
Go to number 12.
Issue 12 is critical unfunded interventions. During consideration of the adopted committee report on the ministerial policy statements, the Committee on Budget identified the following critical areas that require additional funds to improve service delivery across the country in financial year 2025-26. I have provided response under Annex 4 attached, and I wish to take you to Annex 4.
Please, go ahead. Members, page Annex 4. And the last one in small letters.
Annex 4, pending expenditure needs for financial year 2025-2026. Section B, additional recommendations from Parliament. 1. Under Vote 004, Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs. You recommended 5 billion under Ministry of Defense required to settle the ministry's debt for land compensation. And our response is that Uganda shillings 28.647 has been provided to Ministry of Defense for compensation in financial year 25-6 under the budget for domestic arrears. In other words, we advise the entity to work within the provision which we have already made to settle this obligation. Under Vote 010, Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. Under recurrent 10 billion required as additional financing for coffee seedlings split into oil seeds and coffee seedlings, 5 billion, 5 billion. Here, we wish to inform the committee that in the budget for next financial year, government provided additional 20 billion under MAIF for provision of coffee inputs, which include seedlings, hose, and fertilizers. In addition, Uganda shillings 60 billion has been provided for coffee seedlings to northern Uganda in the Koligenda. Under the same vote, you recommended 20 billion required to expand the national tractor scheme. Our response is
Yes, colleagues.
Mr. Chair, under the same vote, you recommended additional 20 billion required to expand the national tractor scheme. Our comment or response is that shillings 25 billion has already been provided to acquire sets of heavy earth moving equipment and sets of tractors with assorted implements for mechanization centers. Additionally, funding will be provided under the Climate Smart project. Vote 012.
Could you have a figure for that? You can note that.
PS note that the funding will be provided under how much does under Climate Smart? How much
for tractors
have we provided for tractors under Climate Smart project? Vote 012, Ministry of Lands and Urban Development. You recommended an additional 30 billion required for land acquisition to support the Tororo SGR export processing industrial and logistical hub that has been earmarked under the NDP form. Mr. Chair, in this financial year, 2.17 trillion has been provided under the budget for SGR, and funding for interventions will be prioritized therein. What this means is we are showing you that already there is a resource which you can determine if this is the most urgent, you can take care of it within the already available resource.
So, Akanya, you don't have to eat another rat. Don't eat another rat.
Vote 013, Ministry of Education and Sports. 15 billion recommended to kickstart construction of 15 secondary schools. I'm now reading your recommendations. 21.21 billion required for grant aiding 303 primary schools. 108.61 required for grant aiding of 100 secondary schools. 9.6 required for rehabilitation of 40 secondary schools. 4.7 required for 37 army primary schools. 2.38 required for rehabilitation of 119 primary schools. Yes. And our response is that a comprehensive funding for school construction is being programmed under the second phase of UGIFT, which amounts to $200 million program, and the ULAN project. In addition, government has earmarked Uganda shillings 12.87 billion towards construction and rehabilitation of primary schools in financial year 2025-2026. Under Ministry of Health, vote 014, you recommended 54 billion required for procurement of 158 ambulances for the remaining constituencies. Then you recommended 17.6 required for fuel and 60 billion required for upgrade of health centers that had already been started or on the ongoing projects. And we respond as follows. Government is processing a bilateral funding from French government which will be implemented through a project. Then 17 will be considered when this project matures and the ambulances are available. Then on 60 billion for upgrade, we have recommended 50%, which is 30 billion, has now been provided. in the agenda for upgrade of health centers that had already been started or are ongoing projects.
That is something. That's great. Thank you.
Under Ministry of Works and Transport, vote 016, you recommended 7.2 billion as additional financing required for operational expenses for the Mount Elgon Labor-Based Training Center. Our response is the allocation to MELTC has increased from 1.4 billion in financial year 24-25 to 4.165 billion in 25-26. The figure will further be increased over the medium term. In other words, out of the 7, we have provided 3 billion.
That's okay.
Under Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, 7, you recommended 7 billion required for Juakali program and has been provided 3 billion in financial year 2025-6 against the required 18, leaving the funding gap of 15.6 billion. Government has provided 3 billion for the program in the budget for financial year 2025-6, and additional funding will be considered in the phased approach over the medium term. DB, you can check for me whether this is it out of the 7 have we provided 3? Confirm that for clarity. No, under Juakali. Just check for me. Vote 019, Ministry of Water and Environment. You recommended an additional 50 billion required for implementation of clean water source per village across the country in line with the presidential directive. Mr. Chair, government has provided one already under the budget for water. Government has provided 177.1 billion for interventions under rural water, and additional funding is being programmed in the second phase of UGIFT. In other words, in this financial year alone, the Ministry of Water is getting an increase of 177.1 billion for water.
That's significant.
Under Uganda AIDS Commission, vote 0.
Okay, you can note so that these are the questions. Can we wait and we'll finish? Yeah, then we'll get. Yeah. You don't ban.
Under vote 107, Uganda AIDS Commission, you recommended 20 billion required for dissemination of HIV prevention messages to reach the vulnerable members and the general population. I wish to inform you that the government has provided that 6 billion is already provided for counterpart funding for country coordination mechanism and operational shortfalls. Vote 111, the National Curriculum Development Center, you recommended additional 6 billion, and this recommendation for implementation of A-level curriculum, primary level syllabus, and so this has been provided, this has been taken, the 6 billion, which you recommended. Under vote 114, the chair of health has stepped out. This is good news for him. Uganda Cancer Institute, you recommended additional 62 billion required for nuclear medicine, stroke, positron emissions tomography, PET. And I wish to inform you that all the funding, all the all the 62 billion requested has been provided in the agenda. Vote 124, Equal Opportunities Commission. You recommended 3 billion, and this will be considered in the medium term. Under vote 128, UNEB, you recommended 11.42 billion, and this recommendation has been honored by the ministry. So 11.42 has been provided to UNEB. Under vote 11133, Directorate of Public Prosecution, you recommended 5.6 billion required for recruitment of staff with the aim of increasing scope of criminal prosecution, and we have managed to provide 3 billion now, and the difference will be provided in the subsequent financial year. Vote 310, under Lira University, you recommended 24.4 billion required for expansion of teaching hospital for specialized services, and 5 billion for construction of perimeter fence. Out of this, 3.59 billion has been provided to Lira University as NTR, and additional funding to be considered over the medium term. So they have additional funding under the NTR, which they can determine how to use, especially the fence can be taken care of under this. Vote, various votes, local government, you recommended 16 billion.
For sub-counties.
For sub-counties, a number of these have been considered under the traditional grant, and those which will miss out, we shall continue to provide even in the subsequent years. Mr. Chair, also important to note is that there are other commitments by the Ministry of Finance. When I came here, you raised a number of issues where we made commitments, but the most important one is under the Parliamentary Commission, which had a shortfall of 111.7 billion. I wish to inform the committee that this has been fully provided. Among many others,
the compensation of land for Uganda Kingdom. That was a big issue.
Uganda Kingdom, we are providing 38.5 billion, and we shall spread this in 4 financial years. Maybe I take you through the whole list so that you appreciate. We have Kampiringisa, Mpigi Intracom Fertilizer Factory. We are providing 80 billion to offtake. This is an offtake for fertilizers. And we have transmission line for Buroba to Kampiringisa, 24 billion. We have Kirinka factory in Karamoja. We are providing 7 billion for the roads, and 8 and 9. This is Ekanya who was raising this. Then transmission lines and extension of 50 megawatt electricity to Katikekile, Moroto for Tororo Cement, 89 billion we have provided. Then purchase of land, 9,500 acres of land, 45 billion has also been provided. and also 14.8 billion for construction of the water supply system for the clinker factory by Tororo Cement Limited in Moroto. So Ekanya should be happy. Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs, we are providing recruitment of 10,000 soldiers, 78.05 billion. And also there are operational shortfalls in there, resulting from promotions, 14.9 billion has been provided, and also professional pay enhancement of scientists, 31.3 billion has been provided. Then Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development under UTER, 10.05 billion. Ministry of Agriculture, the 60 which I talked about for coffee seedlings in northern Uganda. Buganda Kingdom, 38.5 billion. Additional funding to UDC, 40 billion. Ministry of Works and Transport, 3.95 completion of the works under the Catholic Shrine of the Uganda Matters. Ministry of Energy transmission line for Simba Cement Factory, 17 billion. National Information Technology Authority, 20 billion for development of super app that integrates government and public internet-based services. Parliamentary Commission, I had mentioned. Uganda Revenue Authority, as reinstatement of the budget operations, 58 billion, and 24 billion support the IT system to enable efficient tax collection, and also 38 billion provision of contractual obligations for the Riponami project. Internal Security Organization, 0.53 billion as a shortfall in the capital expenditure, and various MDAs and local governments, together with Auditor General. DB, you will confirm to me, the MP for Kavala is there. You will confirm to me whether the issue is going to be addressed under here. I remember giving it to you. Under the shortfalls on pension and gratuity arising out of Auditor General's. Yes. So, Mr. Chair, I submit.
Yeah, you want to allow there were clarifications of issues. I think we'll want to continue your clarifications. You asked the
Mr. Chair,
PSST to...
I think for us to flow properly, with this submission, members can raise additional issues, then we respond at once.
Yeah. Okay.
If it pleases you, Chair.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Thank you, colleagues. Those were the responses to a number of issues that were raised by members. Members, if you note, I was just doing the calculations on Annex 4, which the other one is generically to clarify the technical issues for our report and for the House. But on Annex 4, you note that commitments by the ministry itself, the requests the ministry were to the tune of 1.034 trillion. And they were able to give a generous 919.1 billion. But they were that is about 88.8%, nearly 89%. Honorable Minister, when you go to members' requests in Part B, it was about the same amount, about 1.6, quite big. And you were not being very generous, despite being strategic. Yeah, you are very strategic. For example, you will see from how you handle education, how you handle the pet center health, that's quite something that's going to impact the different sectors. But we thought you've not been as generous as you are to yourselves. Colleagues, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I thought you were sharing. Can I yield the floor?
So the floor is open, members. Be very brief. We have allowed the minister to.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank the minister. I think this one of the meeting the Minister of Finance has taken serious. And the PSST. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you very much. You have taken this meeting very serious, more than any other. You have come with the entire head of departments in the Ministry of Finance. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, when you come here, that shows. And there are ladies. So I want to thank you very much. Secondly, there are issues that we need to agree. Issues of PDM. It is unfair that you leave out over 100 parishes where elections were conducted. It was gazetted by the Minister of Local Government. It's part of the compendium of parishes that Minister of Local Government submitted. The error, Mr. Chairman, I've done investigation. When Minister of Finance requested Minister of Local Government to make submission, Minister of Finance was concerned about the list being inflated. They wrote to local governments. Local governments submitted the list. The technical officers in Ministry of Finance, while they were entering the data, erroneously left out about 100 parishes. And we have raised this issue. Ministry of Finance seems to be adamant. And these are parishes where we come from. The last time we discussed this matter in Parliament, the minister said those parishes should go back. Honorable Minister, in your place, you have the means. You can tell them to go back. But under the table, you give them yoga. Under the table, you give them other wealth creation fund. But in my parish, where I come from, where the vice president comes from, where the speaker comes from, I have the book. Those are the parishes approved by Electoral Commission, Minister of Local Government. Honorable Minister, I just want you to be fair to these people in the villages. And we provide for resource for these few parishes that were erroneously left out by the technical people. Secondly, the issue you have raised about Tororo, about Toro Cement, Simba Cement, those factories are based in Toro, and we are happy because they pay some ground rent and so forth. But Geoffrey Ekanya has no association with any of them because colleagues were looking at me as if I'm a shareholder. The factory being supported, Toro Cement being supported to expand its operation in Moroto is a good project because for us as citizens of Tororo and Uganda, we have been paying a lot of cost of maintenance of road from Moroto, from Bale to Tororo. Heavy trucks carrying heavy load, violating axle system. So to me, it is proper that government is extending grant to these companies so that they put the factory in Moroto and they employ my uncles and we reduce carrying heavy loads on Tororo, and the saving on the road is much. This contribution is not higher than the saving on the road. So it is a good project, and I want to thank you very much. Finally, the request for the standard gauge land for acquisition of industrial park and processing facility for Tororo is not part of the standard gauge project. Honorable Minister, kindly and instigate this. The initial design of the standard gauge, it had industrial facility along the corridor from Kampala up to Tororo. While during the contract negotiation with Yap Mackenzie, the component of industrial processing facility were removed. And that was, it was agreed that the project of industrial facility should be left for private sector. If we do not have land in Tororo, which will handle logistical hub, industrial processing, silos, and so forth, the standard gauge project will be like any other white elephant, like the Mombasa, Nairobi Road, and others.
Honorable,
Mr. Chairman,
please, Honorable,
I'm concluding with this one.
Please,
My
let's give you other one, at least a minute. Be specific.
So my request,
No, that will be another speech.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, my request, therefore, is that we provide for this resource and a Minister of Land to acquire land in Tororo for industrial processing facility. The standard gauge will benefit in terms of economy of scale.
You would have gone there, but you did something else. Okay, Honorable Musa Queer, Honorable Aleper Moses. Can you go, come.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, my concern is on vote 013, where the committee made some requests, but there is zero consideration on the seed schools and others outlined here. Chair.
Colleagues.
Chair, there were schools that were grant aided by government since 2016. And these schools have been progressing. A case in point is Akora Seed Secondary School within the constituency headquarters of Moroto County in Aleptong district. The students are under tree, government is paying teachers, and when a request is made, there is zero consideration. It's going to be planned in 2025, 2026, something, because there is no allocation. What is the president going to tell people when he's standing on that ground to speak about what he has done in the last 5 years in education, when in the last 5 years this school has been under tree and at the constituency headquarters? This is a request that the minister and the PS should look at it critically, that consideration should be given to the seed secondary schools which were grant aided. And no construction, no activity is ongoing. This is a critical area that should be considered, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, that is on schools. Honorable Aleper Moses.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I just want to raise a few issues. One is on accounting officers. The reason why they have not yet been, according to the response, is they had not accounted for funds. I don't know what other magic they will have after that. They are still making submissions for accounting for funds, having failed when the auditor had established that they had not accounted for funds. At least what I know is, if within 1 month after implementation of an activity, someone has not accounted for funds, where will he or she get this information to support that particular expenditure? Then on domestic areas, you said one strategy, or you are going to use this to make sure that either you caution the accounting officers to make sure nothing happens. But we have realized that what causes these domestic areas, you warrant the money, but actually don't release it. And that we have observed it over the past 3 financial years. So you should be talking about you who warrant, not those that actually fail to get the money. Because you warrant but fail to release the money. So either you tell us that one of the strategies you're going to use is to make sure that what you warrant will actually be released. Or you don't warrant unless you're sure of what will be released. So that would be a better remedy. The other one is on the outstanding obligation to UTL. You know, something very interesting, and I think requires a lot of interest, is how you can sell UTL and a person who is buying UTL only takes assets and not liabilities. I don't know which type of business practice that is, where you're buying only assets from someone and the obligations are just left like that. So there's a lot of unclear issues pertaining to the sale of UTL. Because when you look at the agreement, that only assets were taken over by the other person, not their liabilities. But you should explain why you have come with this new practice. And then, of course, on recommendations of Parliament and also recommendations by Minister of Finance. I know you are in the serving table. You only recommended or took 19% of our recommendations versus your 89%. Really, how do you balance these boats, you people? Even if you are at the serving table. Then, lastly, Honorable Chair, is about the Gulu University Constituent College in Moroto. The other year, some 2 financial years back, I think 3 financial years back, money was released for buying land, purchasing land. Then there's been construction. The construction is ongoing for the main building, but that is about to stagnate, and there is no provision. What is the use of setting up such a facility and not complete it, and yet was intended to take off within 4 years from the start? Thank you.
Thank you. I think you have taken the notes on those very pertinent issues where someone takes only assets and leaves the liabilities with the seller. Okay, that's the new economics. It is economics with different books, so I don't know. We would have not read that one. Next, Honorable.
Chair.
Harriet, Honorable.
Thank you, Chair.
Not before you, then you can. Yes. Mugisha. Or maybe unless I say National Water and Sewerage Corporation. Honorable.
Really?
My sister, go ahead.
Mine is about to, first of all, I want to thank the Honorable Minister for responding to a number of issues comprehensively. Honorable Chair, mine is about education and sports. First of all, 2 years ago, there were schools that were taken by government, and one of them is in my district. It is called Chiwona Senior Secondary School. It was grant aided. Teachers were recruited. They were posted. Everything has been put in place. But for the last 2 years, the school has never been given funds. Over the weekend, I was in my constituency, and the whole board, the management, came to my home complaining. I also called the cow, the chief accounting officer of our district. She confirmed that she has been writing, but up to now, money has not been given to that school. I would like to know the effort being made to ensure that such schools across the country are given money so that they progress. Otherwise, we don't know what is going on. I also have copies right now. I can lay them here to see that the school has not been given funds. I would like to get a response, because the way I see things, it means that it is not even going to be incorporated. Their budget is not in the next even financial year. So I don't know what we...
Procedure.
Chair, the procedure is not I'm raising. We are now doing a budget for next financial year. Issue of execution of the budget are different from what we are doing now. If money was provided, you should have discussed that in another forum. Let's discuss now issues of what things we need to fund in the next budget. If yours was already funded, go and follow up the money.
Honorable Chair, I would like to continue. Protect me, please. Because if we are looking at the 2025-2026 budget, and this school has not been given money, that means their budget should be here. I think I'm not wrong to raise such an issue. This is a pertinent issue, that their budget, if the money has not been given, then they can now remember to incorporate their money here. I thank you.
Yes, Honorable Katesh.
Chair, your procedure issue has been overtaken.
Oh, you have just come. Can we give Honorable... Because he has just come. Oh, you are coming at the tail end. Please come and get Honorable... get my neighbor the documents.
Chair,
Yes.
Chair.
Please go
can
ahead,
I-
Honorable.
Chair,
Please, Honorable Katesh.
Chair, and
Please. We have given you, haven't you got the documents? Oh, please go ahead.
Chairman, meetings of Parliament are governed by our rules. This committee has a chair. The vice can only chair when the substantive chair is absent. But the vice cannot appropriate another member, the one who is seated next to you. That position is meant to be for a clerk who takes minutes. So if you are in a formal meeting of Parliament, you need to respect the rules. The gentleman there needs to vacate. The chairperson, if he's unable to chair a meeting, he needs to leave immediately. And then you need to have the clerk seated there. Because you can't ask government for rules when the committee is done. And you have no option. That's what the rules say.
Honorable, this is free sitting. My colleague is sitting here freely, and he should not be disturbed. Please, thank you. Honorable Katesh, go ahead. Honorable Katesh, go ahead.
The issue to the substantive chair, not you, because even you there, you are there illegally.
I'm on the chair. Please, the chair is fully represented here.
Chair, we are proceeding right.
We are proceeding right. Okay, go ahead. Honorable Katesh.
Chair, you want to thank the ministry for
He has not even apologized for coming late. Can you imagine? Honorable neighbor.
Chair, I want to thank the ministry for the presentation, but also I think, and unlike previous years, this time we have tried to harmonize. And I think that we made some good progress together. Chair, the ministry...
Can we have one meeting?
I just have 3 issues which I wanted the ministry to take note of. The first one is on the wealth funds, page 5. Of course, this is the money that has gone down into our people. And my major question to government is whether there is an attempt to document or quantify return on investment across. I know you always produce so many reports. So I would like to know whether at the end of the year or after 2 years there will be some kind of report that shows quantitatively and qualitatively the return on investment on these wealth funds, because they are going directly into the people. We are accounting for disbursement, but we want to see now the success story at the end. How does it qualitatively and quantitatively stand out? The second issue, Chair, is on page 11, the issue of areas. We note that you have provided 1.4 trillion and you are committing to clear the rest in 3 years. Mr. Chairman, the question is for the suppliers of government, people who have done business with government.
Would it be really genuinely right to interrupt the member?
Thank you very much, Chair.
On trivialities,
these are rules. They can't be trivialities.
Please go to the substance of what is the substance of this meeting? What the
Please,
substance of
I
this
have
meeting?
a right to talk in this meeting.
No.
This is not an NRM caucus
And I'm
meeting.
telling you,
Yeah, but you bring
Please,
content.
rule-
Don't bring.
don't be
Rule
minuscule.
203.
Let's do the right things. Let's listen to
You
each
mean you
other.
can't even hear the rules if I am
First
raising
of all,
them?
you are a very uncouth person. How do you come and disrupt a meeting? You have been late.
I
You have
am.
been here since 9
You
o'clock.
mean when I come late, I cease being a member of this committee?
You don't, but you have some decency
Can I raise
to
the
respect
procedural
members.
issue?
You
Can
be
I?
decent sometimes.
Can I raise the procedural issue? You make a ruling.
Respect the chair.
No. This is an illegal chair.
No.
This meeting is illegal. Can I raise the?
So if it is illegal,
This
then
is
go
not-
ahead and
Can I
say
raise
that.
the
issue?
So you
This
shall
is-
not be listened. If it's
this is
illegal,
Can
not
I raise
Kasoko.
the issue? This meeting has a chair.
so
Can I
you
raise?
want to raise issue to an illegal meeting?
Can I raise the issue? I am not addressing you. I'm addressing the chair.
Please address the chair. I'm the chair.
Chair rule
You see,
203.
sometimes it's good to respect other colleagues.
Even if you get angry, the rules will remain the same. Your anger doesn't change them.
Yeah, it is true.
Can you listen to me? I'm
But it goes
raising
the
a
character of the
issue.
person in charge.
Chair, order.
Okay, go ahead and raise.
There cannot be order. You must hear me.
Order.
Yes. Can I raise the issue?
Order.
Can I
Order.
raise the issue?
Order.
I am raising a procedure. You are a new MP. You need to
Order.
run.
Go ahead and
Order.
read.
You need to run when they are raising a procedure.
Order.
Order doesn't
If
arise.
you are brought to anger from young, don't
Order.
bring anger to the.
Can I raise the procedure issue? It takes a second. Can I raise the issue?
Please go ahead.
That's what you should have done. Chairman of the committee, I want to draw your attention to Rule 203. Five, 2035. A meeting of the committee shall, and the word shall be presided over by the chairperson of the committee, and in his or her absence by the deputy chairperson, or in the absence of both of them by a member of the committee elected by the members present and voting. Shall. So you cannot come here and convene a meeting, the chair sits here as if you are in an NRM caucus meeting. The rules must be respected. So you are there illegally, except if the chair is not present. This is what the rules say.
Can I rule now?
No, you can't rule because I am raising the issue against you.
Because you came late, you didn't know. You don't
I
know
am
the reason why the
raising,
chairman
it
is
does not
there.
matter.
One is not-
I am
chairman is
raising
not
the
there.
issue to the
chairman is not in the
substantive chair of the committee. He must explain how, in his absence, can the deputy chair meet.
He explained. It's
It is-
because you came late. He explained.
It does not matter. Let him explain again. I am a member.
Okay.
Yes.
Chair.
See that kind of arrogance.
Can you show me the
That
minutes
one.
where it is
We are going
minuted?
to get tired of that kind of positions.
You see, the other day we had Kateshumba
Okay.
presenting. Yes.
Okay. Can you
Chair.
listen?
Chair.
Honorable Semuju,
Because you don't
when you
respect
raise
other colleagues.
any issue, when you
Chair.
raise an issue, you keep quiet and wait for a response.
Order.
Okay, now,
Order.
now I want to make it clear for you. Number one,
Order, Mr. Chair.
number one, you came in late. Not only late, but very late. Before this meeting, at the start of this meeting, we had discussions. You cannot demand for minutes of a meeting now, which is ongoing. It is totally not there. After the meeting, the minutes will be read in the next meeting. So it's not. No, I'm giving a background. So as far as we are concerned here, the names of the chairperson you want to be on the chair, the chairperson is absent. But Opoloti Siage MP Kachumbala just passed by and joined the meeting. And as for joining, and we saw it wise and substantially correct for the deputy chair to continue the meeting. It does not cause any harm at all and does not need to create drama. This is a simple issue. The person chairing a meeting is a substantive deputy chair of this committee. He's not a vice chair, but a deputy chair. Thank you.
Chair.
Misinterpreting them wrongly.
Write a minority report. Yeah, it's okay. Mr. Chairman, can I finish my point before?
Yes, please,
Chair.
Honorable Gatachumba, go ahead.
Chair, I was raising the issue with the ministry. I was raising the issue with the minister about the areas. You have guaranteed that you will be clearing in 3 years. You have some people in the private sector who are under distress. And one of when you engage some of them, if government was able to commit, for example, to the financial institutions, they can have some reprieve. Is that something that the government can be able to do to save our private sector? Because some of the rules under BOU, beyond restructuring twice, are not flexible. And this matter has been a big problem. Finally, Chair, on the Small Business Recovery Fund and UDB, it would be good for the minister to tell us the rate of disbursement, because disbursement and absorption, we've committed a lot of money, but is it actually going out or is it seated? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Pascal, then we come to Dr. Musa. In that order, we conclude.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and the Minister for the...
Let's be brief, then
for the
so that we
report.
can allow our team to make a response.
Chair, mine is not much. I want to only get clarification from the Minister in regards to the parishes, just like the Honorable colleague was raising, parishes which were captured in the newly created administrative unit. And they are not being funded money for PDM. Some of them have received, like a case in point, we have in Pade district two parishes which are not getting this money for the PDM. What do they have in mind and in consideration for these parishes? As we are going for elections, it's very important we get clear clarification from the minister so that we are supposed to support our people, get to know what belongs to them. The chair, in our last meeting, we also resolved that the ministry will look into areas of arrears of the local leaders, the LC ones. When I look at the shortfalls which have been provided for, I am not seeing anything allocated for honorary or ex gratias for the LC ones. This is something which looks very small, but at the grassroots level, it is a very big issue. Most especially to us who go to the voters. They are pinning us on this money every little time, and we are responding things that we cannot sort it out. So we want the ministry to help us liaise with the Ministry of Local Government, and we put this to end. Okay, I submit, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Dr. Musa.
Thank you very much.
Rico Nyamweso.
I want to thank the Minister for the responses. I have 2 or 3 issues. One is on the domestic arrears, on how you want to address the issue of accumulating domestic arrears. In point 4, you said you are going to reconsider the structure of counterpart financing for the projects. I would want to know the specific proposals to ensure that the counterpart financing is addressed, because we have a number of projects which cannot be implemented because of lack of counterpart financing. Then the second issue is on the Uganda AIDS Commission. I think the committee's proposal is to provide additional funds for dissemination of HIV messages. But I think the ministry indicated that they're providing funds for the counterpart funding for the coordination mechanisms. I want to know whether we're talking about the same things here.
On HIV. Can you repeat that?
The committee is recommending additional funding for dissemination of messages to the public and vulnerable groups.
Yes.
But in the minister's response, he's saying that they provide additional funds for the coordination mechanism. So I want to know whether we're discussing the same thing.
Not that, the difference between
and then,
our intention was messaging.
Yeah, and then the last thing is on the schools. the minister indicated that on the schools there's already a program for construction and rehabilitation of schools, and which is being planned under U52. I wanted to know whether that includes coding of the community schools, grant aid or community schools. Yeah, the seed schools, I think they're coming under the phase 2 funding of UGIFT, together with rehabilitation of primary schools and secondary schools. What about community schools which are already there, but they need only grant aiding? Does that program include it? And these schools already exist. The 103 schools to be grant aided. Thank you very much.
Honorable Ariko. And then we'll, after Nyangweso, we'll go to the Chair Health.
Mr. Chairman, sir, I thank you. Mr. Chairman, I don't have so much, but I just would like to raise one matter regarding the did for secondary schools, where we passed the budget. This committee had made provision for financing of construction of 13 seed secondary schools. What happened subsequently, we all know. During consideration of the budget framework paper, this committee reminded itself and addressed the matter of those schools that didn't get funding as a result of that budget adjustment. But I'm also aware that when the Committee of Education and Sports came here before this committee, a significant number, if not all, the schools had since changed. In the BFP report, and I am sure this is what informed our communication to the ministry, there is a specific outlay of which schools they were. But then we also received another one that the Committee on Education and Sports and the ministry probably have. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to be educated. Which ones are these that we are talking about? Is it those that have stayed before the consideration of the budget committee over the past 2 cycles of budgeting, or is it the most recent ones that the Committee on Education and Sports is bringing?
It's the old one.
It's the old one.
Old, because
it is indeed, Mr. Chairman, just for clarification,
yes.
Even the old one was brought through the same committee. My request
the
for
decision of the committee then on receiving the new additional ones was that let's first sort what came many years ago. I was not even a deputy chair then.
I thank
so
you,
let's
Mr.
sort out as we go. If we put one new on board,
I am happy,
proceed
Mr. Chairman.
like
You say so. I would like to also enjoin the ministry, if that is what it is, to affirm what you're saying. Because after this meeting, it could be a different thing from Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Mr. Chairman, my second issue is to do with the sector that I chair in my different capacity, water and environment. Mr. Chairman, whereas this committee had made a request, a strong recommendation, that an additional 50 billion be provided in line with the President's directive of at least a single source clean water point for every village. Mr. Chairman, I am happy about the response of the minister, but the minister speaks about 177 additional funding has been provided for under rural water. Now, the issue of clean water source vis-a-vis rural water are a little bit different. Rural water concentrates on boreholes, spring wells, and water for production. The issue of clean water is dealt with largely under urban water umbrella. So, Mr. Chairman, if there is additional money under rural water, it is not specific to the President's directive of a clean water source. So, Mr. Chairman, I want to implore this committee and the Minister of Finance that just besides even the directive of the President, it is incumbent upon us, in light of the NDP4 that we postulate, which is derived from the Sustainable Development Goals, that people require clean water, sanitation, and hygiene provision. So providing water is just not a matter of luxury. It is a critical need, because if we are also to address the program under human capital development, we must have a healthy population. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right, on Nyangweso, then Doctor. So, the chair of Natural Resource Committee, Honorable Minister, has made that distinction. When you talk about clean water source, you are largely talking about urban dwellers in Kawempe and where, and they want that access that water compared to the rural ones. Yeah.
We are not talking, Mr. Chairman, I am sorry. We are not talking about Kawempe. Actually, Kawempe is excluded. The Ministry of Water and Environment leaves such gazetted areas to National Water and Sewage Corporation.
Yes.
We are talking about rural growth centers, what we call in villages trading centers, places like sub-counties,
yes,
places like town councils, which are under umbrella. Where, as you see today, to complement the ministry, there has been an attempt to bring what you call the Nexus Green Project, which is also putting motorized water processing plants and distributing them through piped water sources. So if we bring in Kawempe and the like,
we will
lose the argument.
Okay, the minister will make that distinction.
Mr. Chairman, I just recalled something that I wanted to depart from. Mr. Chairman, when you chaired the meeting here regarding this matter, there was one crucial issue that all members of this committee were very strong about: the issue of desilting and opening up dams. Mr. Chairman, it was very little money that was proposed. In fact, the ministry had proposed 6 billion, but this committee felt that desilting equipment of 6 billion, just one unit, was even completely a joke. I believe that this is something that is extremely crucial. Finally, Mr. Chairman, you forgive me, but you were in chair. Your members addressed severally and in detail the issue of rural electrification. Yeah. I remember in your own word, you made a directive here that it was a matter that you were going to take up and look into as you engage with the Minister of Finance. It is neither mentioned in our own proposal nor responded to. So I don't know whether it ended at the Minister of Finance or we did not even bring it up to them anyway. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Nyangwe, so then we'll go to a doctor.
Thank you, Chair.
I have noted that.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the presentation. I want to address myself on Annex 4, Honorable Minister, particularly on the issue of ambulances. And I want to thank you for the efforts you are doing to look for partners to make sure that at least the government obtains and acquires these ambulances. But Honorable Minister, I don't know because the PSST has taken his attention. When this matter was brought to the House, I remember it was discussed that while you shifted from this sector-wide approach to planning to program-based approach, even the PSST here, my OB, assured us that focus is going to shift from just outputs to outcomes. And I remember raising this matter before you, Honorable Minister, that the Ministry of Health reported that indeed you gave them money and they bought ambulances. So when we consider output, it was 100%. Even the budget performance, you released money, they bought ambulances. But they reported that the ambulances are not functional because whereas they obtained the ambulances, the recurrent expenditure, the recurrent budget to run the ambulances by way of fuel, by way of maintenance, was not accompanied. And therefore they had challenges in functionalizing the ambulances. So, Honorable Minister, the money being requested here, the 17 billion, involves the 12 billion for fuel and 5 billion for maintenance of the ambulances. However, in your response, you mean to report that the fuel was meant for the ambulances which you have deferred to buy in the project which you have proposed. Whereas the money required here is to run the current fleet. Honorable Minister, you and us, and I'm sure some of these civil servants here, have been victims of buying fuel in government ambulances. So we are just requesting, the ministry requested to run the current fleet. Give them some fuel to match with the budget you gave them to buy vehicles. So they cannot fully functionalize the vehicles when they break down. The districts can't maintain the vehicles because these vehicles are placed under counties. Counties have no administrative budget. So the budget still runs to the ministry to buy the spares and so forth. So the money, the 17 billion, is not for the future ambulances which you had proposed, which you have deferred for the next project. So I request, even if this money is not availed, at least half of it for them to run, for the ministry to run the current fleet. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Put well that point. Doctor, we conclude. We have plenary, and the same minister we need at plenary.
Thank you, Chair. Also, I would like to appreciate the Minister for his presentation. When we go to Annex 4 on Vote 014, that's under the Ministry of Health, they have provided some 30 billion for upgrade of health centers. But there are some unique projects which are under the regional hospitals, like Hoima Regional Hospital. They had been promised to construct a maternal child health. That was 2020-2023. And what was done was that they demolished the old wards. So now the patients are in makeshift wards. In fact, some of them are under tents. And what had been provided was around 1.15 billion, which could not even start the foundation. So our proposal was, if we can get some little funds, at least because the complex is 6th floor, but if we can get some funds, at least we construct a ground floor. It would be okay. Otherwise, the patients, mothers, that's pediatric. There is no pediatric ward. There is no gynae ward. We have just been, in fact, they are internally displaced within the hospital. So our request was, if we can get some funds, that is for the ground floor, then others can be done later. It's just my humble request. Thank you.
I will go and then you conclude.
Thank you, Chair. For me, I'm here, although somebody might jump on me, but I would like to thank also the ministry for the interventions, being taken, and mostly trying to match the budget, as recommended with the NDP 4. However, there is only one small thing I want to say. I am sure in a budget you can't do everything in one financial year, but you take note of some critical issues so that in the following year you handle them. Now, there is where you have handled the issue of contingency fund. Why can't we for the first time be accurate to the law? If it says 0.5%, you are calculating at 171 billion. Why should we fight to make sure we don't have that, and we are trying to have it at 169? Why can't you direct a budget rest that matter by just additional 1 point something billion, and you are counted to be accurate in that for the first time? For me, another matter I would like to raise is I want to support Honorable Nyangweso. Government gave out ambulances to some constituencies. I thank you for following up to look for money to support the procurement of ambulances for other constituencies. Personally, my constituency got one. But the problem with these ambulances is there is no money to operate the ambulance. There is no fuel. There is no maintenance money. which means this ambulance has been dumped there to collapse, so people start disturbing MPs, need fuel. The operator of ambulance also starts extorting the wananchi. So the ambulance has become a problem. Now that the submission from the ministry is 17 billion, assuming we would procure the rest also. Why is it difficult for us to consider what's already in existence, which tantamounts already to about 50%, so that we offer services to the wananchi? The last one I have the ministry to take note seriously is the issue of provision of water, clean water to our people. If we don't sort out the issue of clean water to our people, you might reach a stage of building a hospital in every home. You are spending money on health for sick people, sickness through drinking dirty water. So why are you allocating money for a lot of medicine? So you'll continue allocating money for medicine and doubling that budget, yet just a small intervention on water would save our people from these funny waterborne sicknesses. I beg to submit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Honorable Minister, for the progress report which you have provided to us. Needless to say, I have a couple of issues for your consideration. One, I was in the constituency, Honorable Minister. As you are aware, the President is giving us about, I think, 12 policemen per sub-county. And there are a litany of sub-counties that don't have headquarters. They don't have headquarters. People are trying to hire and here and there. The policemen have nowhere to stay. And yet the sub-county headquarters have police posts, have where these people need to be. And if you look at the amount, very small, 16 billion, building 139 sub-county headquarters across the country. I thought that is something that you would be able to consider. The second one is on the schools, which you have already talked about. I've added the figures here. We have 614 schools. One time the Honorable Minister advised me, which is a good advice I've taken, and to consider some of these political considerations. Many of your MPs are going for elections, and if you look at the schools, which we have kind of deferred, we said we are going to look for money to do these things, 614 across the country. Just imagine what, if we build them, what it would do to our population. So this list here, would you make it available for Parliament to have it? And when does the project start? Because you've talked about $200 million. Will it happen within the financial year 2025-2026? I would want you to confirm. The other one also is that this committee was very unanimous on matters of the Uganda AIDS Commission. We have realized that ever since the Americans withdrew their money, this is a sector, HIV has become a scourge. And we realized there were budgets in all the MDAs for HIV and AIDS. And we wanted to pull that money under Uganda AIDS Commission. But we were advised that the cabinet sat and provided some guidance and directive that every ministry should have a kind of HIV activities. But by so doing, we have defunded Uganda AIDS Commission. And so the amount you've talked about is 6 billion. So this committee affirmed that the 20 billion would actually be sufficient to help them run. We would want you to consider that. And two more, and I will finish. Oil seeds, we have 111 factories in Uganda producing either sunflower cooking oil or any kind of cooking oil here. But currently, we don't have grains. And the association from the north have written to the speaker and written to the chair budget for us really to support them with 5 billion. So out of the 60 billion for coffee, at least you can give 5 for oil seeds, which is very, very important. And finally, 2 of my wards in a town council have not received PDM money for the last 2 elections. 2 financial years. And now this is going to be the third. They have not received. And these are government structures like Honorable Kanya has talked about. Why do you guys give us problems? They're actually saying we are the ones who have removed that money from them. Can we provide money and provide for these parishes and wards which have not received PDM? Thank you.
I just want to make a special exception and give Honorable just 1 minute. There must be something special you want to pass to the minister. Please be very brief. Yeah?
Thank you, Uncle.
Not
Mr. Chairman.
it was not you, Honorable. It was our colleague there.
You are my uncle.
Please. Yes. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair, Mr. Chairman, I sit on the Committee of Education and Sports, and I want to raise two issues, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think early last year, the President wrote a letter to all members of Parliament about the NRM approach on mass line. The same President, when he came for PDM tour in Ankole region, Mr. Chairman, the President was not happy with the leaders who sabotage government programs. And the President was emphasizing free education for all Ugandans. Chair, now, when you look at the budget, and I want the Minister to pay attention, there is no money at all for free education. Even the granting, aiding of schools, it is a problem, Mr. Chairman, as you can see. So I want the Minister to tell us whether he is sabotaging the directive of the President about free education and why the money is not provided. Chair, number 2 is about the PTCs and NTCs. A law was made, Chair, and all these were put under UNITE. And Chair, I remember when we were presenting as a Committee of Education, you are saying which areas can we pick. And we said there is a crisis of training teachers. We are going to have issues with teachers because these PTCs and NTCs are not doing anything since UNITE is not being financed. So the money for operationalizing UNITE, Chair, was one of the issues that we raised as a Committee of Education because there is a big crisis as far as education is concerned. So I want the Minister to tell us, is it a deliberate move that you are sabotaging this sector? What is happening? Because without free education, which is the message of the President, without teachers being trained to teach, what are we doing as people who have gone to school and there is nothing? So, Mr. Chairman, I want those two issues to be addressed.
Mr. Chairman, just
Honorable Minister, please.
Mr. Chairman, just one clarification.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chairman,
please.
Just one clarification.
No, let's proceed.
Chairman,
It is time for plenary.
Chairman,
you don't want Semjo to hurt me again. Let's
one
continue.
clarification regarding the Toro district.
Let's go. Let's move.
Mr. Chairman, the issue regarding Toro district. We have been provided a district. We don't see it in the budget. Then we agreed here that the VAT of national provided for, because National Water has a project in my constituency. I don't see those two items. Thank you.
Honorable, note that these are what we are discussing are the gaps. And you've not, members should keep in mind that there are provisions already in the budget for a number of these things. These were the gaps we identified which were not funded. Please, Honorable Minister, can you go ahead?
Mr. Chairman, I want to make one general observation, and before I invite the PS and the team.
Kanya became an MP when I was in school. So he's the most experienced